Hey everyone, welcome to the Literary Lounge. I'm Paige.
And I'm Emily.
And today we are going to be talking about The Wicked King by Holly Black.
And we did an episode 2 weeks ago on the first book in this series called The Cruel Prince. So the Folk of the Air series is a trilogy. We're planning to talk about all three. So this is the second one that we're going to get into today.
Yeah, and our drink today is the Rowan Berry Press. It has some muddled berries in it with some flavored vodkas. You can go check out the recipe over on our Instagram.
Should we get into it? Full disclosure, we're about to spoil the crap out of this book. So if you're wanting to read it and you haven't, this is your chance to hop off and then come back when you've finished it.
Yeah, let's get started. All right, so the first major events that happen in this book is it begins off with Jude, who is seneschal to the king, who is Cardan, and he's pretty pissed off at her because she tricked him into being king. Beginning of the book, Locke, who is Cardan's friend, if you remember from the first book, he is granted the Master of Revels, which is kind of like the party planning committee.
He's thrown all the fairy ragers.
Yeah, he's the party president.
Yeah, so this is, I think, a couple months after, like, the first one ends. Like, they've just been kind of going about these new roles, and, like you said, I don't think Cardan's particularly happy about the situation. Oak's in the human world with Vivian.
Yep.
And Heather, her girlfriend.
And Baelkin is locked away in the Tower of Forgetting.
Which is, like, their version of prison, fairy prison.
Yeah. So during this time, Baelkin keeps trying to send Cardan like these messages, and they're getting blocked. Well, Jude gets one of the messages, and she like goes to visit him in the Tower of Forgetting, and he refuses to like tell her anything because I think Baelkin said like he wanted to talk to Cardan about something.
Yeah.
And she wanted to like she's kind of, if I remember right, she's kind of like scared that Cardan's gonna just kind of like give in to Baelkin.
Yeah.
So she kind of wants to fish it out of him before.
Right. She's kind of like protecting him from whatever like evil scheme Baelkin's like cooking up in his prison cell, which sounds like it's not really even a prison cell. Like,
no,
it sounds
he's
like
living
he has
in
like
luxury.
Yeah, it's like fully furnished.
Yeah, it said like he had like rugs all over.
Yeah. Like a cushion chair.
He's cozy in there.
He's fine. Like,
yeah,
he can stay in there.
Yeah. So yeah, he refuses to tell her anything, and so Jude leaves the prison, but she tricks the prison guard Volsiber. I know he like hit her or something, right?
Yeah, he slaps her for some reason.
Yeah.
I think just because Baelkin's kind of got that place like under his control a little bit, even though he's locked away, he's kind of like making friends with these like prison guards and stuff. And
Yeah, so he slaps her and she kind of tricks him and makes him like pass out or something. She like poisons him. And
yeah, she stabs him like with something that knocks him out.
Yeah. And she like throws him on the back of her horse or whatever creature she's riding that day.
Her
And
frog or something. Yeah. Don't they ride like toads? Or...
Yeah, I cannot picture that. It grosses me out. But yeah, so she brings him back to the palace, and it discloses Baelkin's plan in exchange for his freedom. So he said that like Baelkin was like plotting with Queen Orla,
Queen of the Undersea.
Yeah, and that she's been like visiting Baelkin over this time that he's been in there.
Yep. So she kind of knows what he's up to. And then after that, Taryn actually pays Jude a visit at the palace.
That bitch.
I know. If you remember the last book, they did not end on good terms because Taryn was dating Locke, who was pretending to be Jude's boyfriend. And remember, they're twin sisters. So not only are they sisters, and this is just like the ultimate betrayal, but like they're twins. They've been together their whole lives. So she's trying to win her back over. She brings some of her clothes. She brings Tatterfell, which is Jude's like kind of
assistant.
Yeah, she's like an imp or something.
Yeah.
Honestly, we don't really know because they never really describe her, but
can't picture anything in this book.
Right, just her little helper. Trying to win her trust again, and just wants to kind of catch up, I think.
They visit. I had a little bit of weird vibes from Taryn, but the Court of Shadows gets informed of a disturbance in Cardan's room. And so Jude and the Court of Shadows go to Cardan's room to see what's going on. And his entire bedroom is destroyed. It kind of looks like they're having like an orgy in there.
Yeah.
Like
there's like naked people or naked fairies laying around all over the place.
Yeah. And it looked like there was like an assassination attempt.
Yeah.
So Cardan had like, he was like bleeding on his side a little bit. Like it was like an arrow, like barely like nicked him.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jude like is searching the room, trying to find the suspect, and she finds like the secret passageway in Cardan's room, and she like goes down this like secret passageway, and it comes to like the king's room, King Aldred, right?
Yeah, his like old chambers.
Yep. And Nicasia, is that how you say it? I always said Nicasia. I don't know why.
Nicasia sounds good.
Nicasia. She was in there like crying.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jude's talking to her, and Nicasia, I always want to say Nicasia. I'm so sorry if I say that. Nicasia is crying, and she explains that she saw another woman in Cardan's bed, and she was like kind of dressed a little skimpy and wanted to go have a little fun with Cardan, and she got jealous. And there was like this arrow just chilling in the passageway. So
like
she
old bow.
Yeah, like this big old bow. And she tried to kill the girl that he was with, but she missed and hit Cardan. Well, she's like devastated about that. And so Nicasia says to Jude during this like conversation that someone close to her has betrayed her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like trying to think like who would that be? But
yeah, in this moment, we don't really know. My first thought was Vivian, just because at this point in the book, so many people have betrayed her in the earlier story that there isn't really that many people left that she does trust.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, okay, who does she trust more than anyone? Probably like Vivian, I would say. So
I agree.
I kept thinking like, what's the ultimate betrayal? But I couldn't figure out exactly what it was. Maybe that Vivian was like bringing Oak back to Maddock or something along those lines. Just not doing what she promised Jude she would do.
Mm-hmm. I know. I immediately thought of Taryn, but then you make a good point. Like she doesn't trust Taryn or Maddock right now. So, but those were like the two that I immediately went to.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought Vivian could do that to her just because she hates the fairy world so much. So I couldn't like think of like what she would do that would betray her. I mean, she knows like, I feel like Vivian knows enough that Oak can't be there, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point though that you made. Because I feel like that would be like the only thing that she could do that would betray her.
Yeah.
Nicasia also says that Queen Orla wants Nicasia and Cardan to get married because Queen Orla like wants ties to the throne and wants Nicasia, her daughter, to like tie them together.
Yeah, there's a bit of iffiness as to whether Orla or not, like whether or not she can be trusted or relied upon, because she had sworn an oath to King Eldred, Cardan's dad, that they would keep the peace and be allies. But now that Cardan's taking over, I don't think they have necessarily gotten a vibe from her yet as to like how this is going to go.
Yeah, because I think that like oath obviously is gone now that King Eldred died.
Yeah.
So it's broken. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So then after all that happens, so Jude's now kind of aware of like what's going on behind the scenes with like Queen Orla. And she knows too that they're kind of she's working with Balekin too. So then what happens next is they have the Harvest Moon Revel, which is again like just a party, fancy word of saying fairy party. But the theme is that Locke announces the Queen of Mirth, which is like based on a game that fairy children play where they steal away a mortal girl and like convince her she's being honored with a crown, and they like make fun of her essentially. And so he takes this theme, and that's the theme of the party. And so he has like Jude like come out on stage or in the middle of the floor and basically has to be like the Queen of Mirth, and it's catching her off guard because she didn't know that was going to happen. And she has to kind of like go along with it, I think, because like as seneschal she doesn't want to like lose her like composure or make it seem like she was caught off guard, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like she kind of has to like show that she's still in control.
Yeah, that, and she can't give away that she can't follow, or that she can, like,
Can't be compelled.
yeah.
Yeah, because she still has that same ability from Prince Dane, even though he died, like, that still carries on.
Mm-hmm. And I actually, like, Cardan tried to stop her, because I remember he said, like, you should go, like, during the party, but she was, like, kind of like, no, I'm seneschal to the king, like, I'm gonna stay here. But he, like, knew that Locke was gonna do that, I think, but so he, like, tried to warn her.
Yeah.
But
yeah, they made her put on, like, a poopy brown dress and, like, paraded her around the room and stuff. Yeah. She was pissed. She threatened him after. She told Locke if he pulled anything like that again that she was going to kill him.
Yeah. So Jude pulls Cardan aside later and says that he needs to seduce Nicasia for information because, again, her mom wants her to marry Cardan, and Jude needs to find out, like, what Queen Orla's plans are. And as she's, like, explaining these things to Cardan, the tension gets a little hot and heavy, and they end up hooking up. They didn't go all the way at this point from, I think she says it, like, in the next chapter, like, they went pretty far, but they didn't go all the way.
Yeah, see, this part in the book is so vague that I actually thought that they did.
Yeah.
Because they literally, like, start kissing, and then things get a little bit more heated, and then it just, like, the chapter ends. So I actually went through this whole book thinking that they had.
Yeah, and in the next chapter, they say that she says she didn't. There's, like, no spice in this book. Me and Em love the spice.
Yeah, no.
But
feeling really deprived during this book. But she talks a lot about how insecure she feels during the whole thing, which I think is kind of common, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially because Cardan
she's a virgin. She hasn't done anything except kiss it before.
Yeah, and he's a lot more, like, experienced.
Way more
from
experienced.
her. So
she just had an orgy. So
right, she's, like, in her head, like, what am I doing? Like, this is like way over my head. Like,
yeah.
So she kind of, I think she goes through some normal emotions in this particular scene.
Yeah. So shortly, like, after they hook up, Cardan gets the information from Nicasia by kissing her, and she admits to Cardan that her mom's plans are to strike during Taryn's wedding to Locke, which is coming up soon. So Cardan obviously relays all this information to Jude, and she tells the Court of Shadows so they can prep for what's coming.
Yep. Yeah, and around the same time, then Jude and Maddox actually meet up, and they kind of ended on weird terms too, where because they had that duel at the end of The Cruel Prince, like, they're not really, like, their father-daughter relationship is very strained.
Yeah.
But they, like, meet up and kind of talk about stuff, and they both, like, agree that Nicasia cannot take over because it would just give Queen Orla, like, way too much power, and it'd be easy for her to, like, manipulate things.
Yeah.
And so Maddox suggests that they use Oak as, like, a type of bait at the wedding to maybe, like, I don't know, distract her or, like, keep, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, everyone knows that Oak is, like, in line to the throne. So, like, he wants to use Oak as a distraction. So, like, maybe Queen Orla would go for Oak, and then they can get her, like, when they least suspect it or something.
Right, yep.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Jude agrees with that. She's really worried about it, obviously, but she agrees. Jude goes to pick up Oak and Vivi and Heather in the human world, which is kind of hilarious because, like, Heather has no idea about anything about fairies. She doesn't even know that Jude is half fae. So they kind of, like, rip off the band-aid and just show her, like, if they're, like, in a parking lot or something like that, and, like, their horse or whatever is there, that they, like, do they, like, grow the horse out of these, like, seeds or something like that?
Yeah, they, like, throw this, like you said, like, a type of seed, and it becomes, like, a mount.
Well, like, Heather's, like, shocked by that, but she kind of just, like, goes along with everything.
Yeah, it's like they give her no warning. She thinks she's just, like, going to a normal human wedding.
Yeah.
And they're like, psych.
Gone to the fairy world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which it's really sad, but when they arrive, Jude, like, shares the ways that Heather can, like, protect herself using, like, the rowan berries, and just to kind of, like, stay away from, like, sketchy situations. Don't start dancing, like.
Yeah, like the wine kind of makes humans like
don't drink the
way
wine.
drunker maybe than they would be on like normal wine. And so she's just kind of like prepping her from all the situations that could potentially go wrong.
Yeah, why do you think that Jude like did all that to like why do you think she prepped her for all that?
I think because she knows exactly how it feels to be compelled and embarrassed, and like she's had pretty much every like bad scenario happen to her like in the last book, and so she's probably just trying to warn her so she like Heather doesn't go through the same thing.
Yeah, I think she cares for Heather. She really likes Heather, and she doesn't want another human to like be susceptible to their little tricks and games.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on like Vivian not warning her?
It's terrible, honestly. Like, if you really love this person, you're just like, you know how Faerie is. You grew up in Faerie. You know how terrible they can be. And they like all the games they play, but like someone you love, like taking them, just throwing them in there and not even like warning them about anything. It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And also I was thinking too, like what would you do in that situation? Like if you were Heather?
I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, cause I like adventure. So like, I feel like I'd be like, cool, I'll go along with it. Let's see. Kind of. Well, yeah, because like, I would assume that the person I love isn't going to like put me in any danger, which obviously I'm assuming she did that. But like later on we find out like Heather is compelled to do something, and she wasn't warned by Vivi at all about that. So I mean, like the adventure part, like I would assume I would trust my partner enough to like keep me out of danger, but obviously Vivi failed at that. So I didn't even try to warn her. So I'd be pissed about that. But I mean, I guess I would still be pissed if she didn't tell me, but like I'd be like mad, but like I want to go see what the hell this is. Like I want to go.
I think I would be like, you're nuts. Like
you're nuts, let's go, or you're nuts, bye.
You're nuts, bye.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'd be, you're nuts, let's go.
Well, we should move on. So Jude decides she needs to get Taryn a wedding gift. And so she goes to Grimson, he's like a legendary blacksmith in this story. He makes jewelry that has like certain capabilities and swords that have power, like different than any other just normal sword. And he even made the blood crown too. So he's kind of a scheming guy too, but everybody in this book is scheming.
Yeah,
so there's like no surprise there.
Yeah, all of the things that he makes has like curses attached to them.
Yeah. So Jude picks out like these earrings. One's like a star and the other one's like a moon for Taryn. And apparently like its ability is when they're worn, they like enhance the beauty of the person who's wearing the earrings. So she gets those for Taryn. And then exchange, like Grimson makes her promise that like if a war breaks out, that he can craft Carden a weapon with the strength of 30 soldiers. Why? We don't know.
Yeah, and then she exchanges her tears for it as well. I was like waiting for something to like come up with that.
Yeah, that just seems like such a minor thing to hand over.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
I was waiting for them to make it a big thing, though.
Yeah. Or like, she can never cry ever again. Oh, darn.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Okay. Or I don't know, just like something to like use against her in the future. But yeah, so Jude is going back to Maddox for the night, and she's ambushed by this group, and they start attacking her. They kill her horse or whatever she was riding, and she like starts jumping through the trees like how Ghost taught her. And someone hits her leg, and she realizes like she's really not going to escape unless she like just goes down there and fights them. So she jumps down and like starts fighting them, and eventually like the people kind of cower away and run off. And then she like limps the rest of the way home, but she like goes back to her horse or whatever, and the earrings are gone. So yeah, she gets back at home, and she's trying to hide her injury from Taryn and Vivi.
Yeah, because I think it's kind of supposed to be like a bachelorette night or like something, like sisters are hanging out like the night before the wedding, and she just like doesn't want to make a big deal about it.
Yeah. She also commands Cardan to not be alone at night to protect him. And was this the next day?
Yeah, it's like on the day of the wedding.
Okay. Yeah.
That's also when Jude learns that Locke attacked her, because she sees Taryn like wearing the earrings when they're like, I don't know, getting ready for the wedding, or the wedding's about to start, and she's like got him on.
Did you have any idea of like who was attacking her? I thought it was the Undersea.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was like a Maddox situation.
That too.
Like, I don't know, he was trying to trap her into maybe trusting him again.
Yeah, I thought it was like Maddox like working with the Undersea, like, because he's so like sketchy sometimes, and he likes to like have his own plans. So when he made the plan like with Oak and stuff, I thought he was like kind of working with like the Undersea behind the scenes. But
yeah, it's very true.
Yeah. Well, she commands Cardan to not be alone at night, and Maddox overhears that and learns that Jude can compel Cardan. Well, he's pissed off about that.
Yeah, that's probably like not great that he knows that bit of information.
Yeah,
because he's like, always up to no good.
He's like one of the number one enemies.
Yeah. So. Yep. So then shortly after that, Jude is like tricked by the ghost, who, if you remember, is part of like the Court of Shadows, which we haven't really talked about them that much in this book, other than they're kind of just like helping out in the palace now. Like they're Team Cardan, Team Jude, or whatever. But so Ghost actually tricks her into going to the Tower of Forgetting with him, and that's where then she's trapped by like the Undersea. So like Orla, Nicasia, and Balekin like take her down to this like place in the ocean or wherever their kingdom is located, and they hold her captive there for like a month. Yeah. And she has like very few opportunities to eat and drink water. Like they're trying to like break her down.
She has to pretend to be compelled.
Yeah, because she doesn't want them to know that she can't be. And so like they are trying to compel her to think that she's like being fed and like given a nice living space. Like, and in reality she's not. Like she's living in like an empty chamber, prison cell, like, and she knows this because she's really not being compelled, but she has to like play along.
Yeah, and Balekin is trying to compel her to kind of take down Cardan and murder him. So he has like this little plan to kill Cardan, and Cardan makes a deal with them for her return, and that's to not interfere when the Undersea attacks the Court of Termites. And then Balekin has this like little deal with her that she has to kill Cardan. So she's taken back to Maddox's home to heal, which I was so confused about. I'm like, take her to the palace. Like, why did Cardan just let her go to Maddox? It was so weird.
He must have like kind of regained some control or power like within the kingdom while she was away.
Maddox?
Yeah. And he probably was like, oh, I'll take her back and like keep an eye on her and she can be with her family and stuff. But you know, Jude, like, she's not about to just sit around and like wait for everything to like fix itself.
Exactly. Yeah, so she doesn't stay there long, and she tries to go back to the palace. None of the guards or anyone will let her in, so she finally like climbs up this like weird like mountain thing that like kind of leads up to Cardan's room, and she goes in there and she's like standing at his bed, and he just like pulls her into his bed and like snuggles her. It was cute.
Aww.
Yeah, so she tells Cardan like Balekin's entire plan, and then the Court of Nightmares, that's what they're called, right?
Shadows.
Fuck. The Court of Shadows. Who's the Court of Nightmares? Is that any court?
No.
Oh, that's ACOTAR.
No, I don't think there's a wait, is there a Court of Nightmares in ACOTAR?
That's what they call the night court. The under the mountain, or the mountain.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The Court of Shadows.
There's too many books with like courts in them. I'm getting really confused.
Sorry. So the Court of Shadows comes in. You go.
I'm confused.
Okay, so okay, I got it. So Jude is telling Cardan the plan, and the Court of Shadows comes in, and they like don't trust Jude right away, and they think that like, well, Jude kind of explains that Balekin sent her there to kill Cardan, and she like pulls out the poison that Balekin gave her, and the Court of Shadows like doesn't believe her. Like they think that she's gonna like try to kill Cardan, and so she has to prove that she like can't be compelled. So then Cardan tries to compel her, and that proves that she can't be compelled. So then they believe her.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. So then after that, she's still kind of playing along to Balekin that she's planning on poisoning Cardan. And so she actually like goes to Hollow Hall, which is like where he used to live, because he's free now. He's like, I don't know if he's been deemed the ambassador yet. He is the ambassador for like the Undersea. But so she's like tricking him into thinking that she's gonna follow through because, again, pretending to like be compelled. So then they have another like revel or party, and Cardan stumbles in like as if he's drunk, and so like everybody thinks he's drunk, and
which is pretty typical because he always is drunk.
Yeah, right. They're like, oh, just another.
He was just
a
little
Cardan.
more drunk than he usually is. Yeah.
Yep. And so Jude's kind of like trying to help him, but she can tell that something's off. Like she thinks he's been poisoned, which is really what's happening here. And Balekin actually seizes the opportunity to like blame Jude for it.
Yeah. Because they were like dancing, and then she kissed Cardan, and then she tasted the poison on her lips, and then so like they're right next to each other, so that's why Balekin had his like opportunity to like frame her for it.
Yeah. But then she proves to everybody that she can't be compelled. Like she basically uses it as her opportunity to protect herself, and just says like, sorry, like I actually tricked you, and I haven't been listening to you at all. And then she tells everybody that he is drunk, and like hauls him out of the room.
Yeah, so as she's like hauling him out of the room, she's like trying to find the bomb, because the bomb is like really good at like antidotes and stuff. And so they bring him to his like chambers, and they realize that the bomb can't, like, she doesn't know how to help him. She doesn't have the antidote.
Is that when Balekin then like sends a letter that he's like, meet me in, I don't know,
like
the gardens, and I have the antidote, you bring the blood crown.
Yep.
She goes out there to get it from him, and she says like, oh, if you give me the antidote, like I'll give you the crown. But she says that she wants to make sure the antidote is actually real. So she drinks the vial of poison that's been in her pocket that was originally given to her to give to Cardan. And so she drinks it, and she says like, give me the antidote and I'll drink half of it, and if it heals me, then I believe you. Well, what she really did is she like dumped out the poison and put water or something else in there and takes it. And so then when she's taking the antidote, then she spits it into that vial and gives it to the bomb to like run off with it.
It's gross.
Cardan drink she like this. Baby birds him the antidote basically, but
ish.
So then Balekin's like, how dare you? And they're like about to duel, but it's like, that's like a duel. Yeah, that's like being generous to call it a duel. Like they literally run at each other, and she like stabs him.
Yeah, and then it's over.
Yeah.
So Balekin's dead, and when she returns to Cardan, I think the bomb brought the cure to him. But she returns to Cardan, and Cardan shares that he thought that Jude has been in the room already, and it turns out that Taryn had her earrings on and was pretending to be Jude, and asked Cardan, she asked, not commanded.
Yeah.
Cardan to release Maddox of his vow to the crown and hand off half of his army to Maddox. And Cardan agreed with it, so that kind of like shows us how much Cardan like trusts Jude, because
he didn't need to be compelled to like agree to it, basically. Like he's like, oh, I trust her and her intentions. And
exactly. Yeah. So now Maddox is off with half of an army. Don't know what he's planning.
Yeah. In this moment, like, it's because like how Jude found out that it was Taryn is because like I think Cardan mentions the earrings, right? Like she's wearing,
also she wasn't in the room earlier.
Yeah, that too. So she's like, okay, who else could it be?
Yeah.
But like I think she was wearing the earrings, so I was wondering like in that moment, like, do you think that the earrings like work differently depending on like who is looking at her in the moment? Because maybe she looked like they're identical twins, but maybe she looked even more like Jude because the earrings were like making her look like Jude because that's what would be beautiful to Cardan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I was just wondering about that.
Mm-hmm. A little bit later on, Cardan and Jude decide to get married in secret.
Mm-hmm.
And Cardan wanted to get married because he wanted to be released of the compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jude would still have power by being queen of Elfhame.
Right. She wouldn't need to like order him around anymore. She can just make decisions on her own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was really cute. Did you think he was like being sincere, like he actually like wanted to marry her for like love too, or do you think it was just like a power move?
I thought it was sincere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't like skeptical of the situation because I think we know enough about him now that he's a lot better of a character than like what we were originally like convinced to believe about when he was like bullying her and stuff in the first book.
For sure. I think this book is like his redemption.
Right. Like we see the true Cardan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Orla meets with Jude and Cardan out by the sea and demands justice for Balkan's death because that's her ambassador for the land. And he refuses to appear weak, and he starts like harnessing his like powers as king.
Mm-hmm.
And he like starts like creating this like big new island, and on the island is an acacia like weaved into like a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And he almost killed an acacia in the process, so he's like showing off like the power that he has, and that kind of makes Queen Orla back down.
Yeah, 'cause she's like trying to protect her daughter, and she had originally believed that he was kind of a weak king, and so this is his moment to really show everybody that he has a lot more power than I think anybody suspected that he had.
Yeah. So Cardan didn't know that like Balkan died and that Jude killed him. So when he finds that out in this time, Jude admits to like the crime.
Yeah, she doesn't think that it like he's gonna do anything about it. Like they just got married.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he banishes her to the human realm and says that she can only be pardoned by the crown. And then we kind of like end the book with like the epilogue. It's pretty much just like Jude being heartbroken in the human world, and she just is kind of like working with Oak to like kind of prepare him to become king one day.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? Like, did you catch on to the part where he said like she can only be pardoned by the crown?
I don't think I really thought anything of it, but I will say that I wasn't necessarily convinced that he was being cruel to her.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking he had something up his sleeve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I at first, so before he said like she could be pardoned by the crown, I'm like, oh my god, like everything we learned about Cardan is wrong. Like he was just using her the whole time. Like he was just playing his tricks and games again, like the old Cardan. And then when he finally said she can only be pardoned by the crown, I was like, there it is. Yeah. And I was like, Jude, you're dumb. Pardon yourself. Like,
yeah,
you're the crown.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of confusing, like, because we don't know if that's really going to work at this point, since she tries to tell everybody, like, on the beach.
She's been queen for probably like 5 minutes.
Yeah, she's like queen, and everybody's just laughing at her. Like, they're like, no, you're not. And Cardan doesn't come to her defense.
Yeah. That's kind of a wrap on the summary of the book. Near the beginning of the book, Jude has a conversation with Asha, who's Cardan's mom, and she tells her that an old hag predicted Jude's mother would give birth to a child who would be a great weapon. Jude thinks that she's referring to Vivi. Who do you think she meant, and what do you think the weapon is?
I figured it was Jude, right? Because Vivi, although she's the only like one with Fae in her blood of the sisters, she doesn't want anything to do with this realm, and so it's pretty obvious that it's Jude. What the weapon is a little bit unclear. Like, I wonder if she's going to get fairy powers in the next book, or like if she is gonna use like her human abilities to just kind of prove to everybody that you can still thrive and like rule as a human, like
Well,
among fairies.
yeah. Well, even just the human abilities are like a power in itself. Being able to lie and they can't.
Yeah.
That's a huge power.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was referring to the weapon is Jude. Like,
Yeah.
she is the weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Just like how smart she is. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, there's like another part I wanted to ask you about, but like while practicing her swordsmanship skills, she's like kind of dueling herself in the mirror. Like she is sweaty and exhausted, and she like looks at herself and says like, it's still not enough. I can never beat her. What do you think she meant by that?
I think by saying like it's still not enough, I can never beat her, she's definitely talking about herself. And I just think that she believes that she'll never be good enough and she wants to constantly like better herself and like better her skills. And so like looking back in the mirror, she's never going to be good enough for herself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel like she's still insecure. Like, although she's gained more power in this book and is making bigger decisions, I think she still, feels inferior to the fairies
yeah, for sure.
because they're still pulling shit over on her.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean they have a lot of power, and she really, I mean, she's learning her powers, that she can have that kind of go against what they can do to her. But yeah, I mean, they're always, I feel like, going to be more powerful than her.
Yeah.
What changes have you seen in Cardan throughout the book?
I think we see, like I was saying earlier, how he's a not such a nasty character after all. Like, there's that point early in the book where Jude is looking at those like globes in King Eldred's room that show memories from the past.
Mm-hmm.
And it was showing how Cardan was like trained at an early age to be cruel, where they show that like the only time he really gets attention or like reassurance as a child is when he's like doing mean things. And so we learn that that was kind of how he was taught to behave, but it's really not like his true nature.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this was kind of like I said earlier, like his redemption. I mean, yeah, he's definitely not as cruel to Jude, and he sees more in Jude than, I mean, I guess he always has. I think he's just coming to terms that he likes Jude, because in the first book he said like he hated that he liked Jude, like he wanted to do everything to not like have feelings for her. But now I think he's just kind of going along with it, like
Yeah,
I
like
have
coming
feelings
to
for her.
terms with like how real it really is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Did you think that when he banished her at the end that he was angry at her or that he was trying to protect her?
I kind of touched on this earlier, but like at first I thought he was angry at her, which I couldn't understand why. I was just so confused that he was banishing her. But then when he said like you can only be pardoned by the crown, then that's when I thought he just had something up his sleeve.
Sure.
And then I was like screaming at her in the book like, pardon yourself.
Yeah.
Go back.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I agree. I felt like he had like an ulterior motive.
mm-hmm. So the title Queen of Nothing is obviously like referring to Jude. That's the next book. Do you have any predictions?
I think she's gonna get to come back, right? Like they're not gonna keep her in the human realm for like this entire book.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely like a reason why she's there right now, and I think we'll maybe get to see like what Cardan is planning to do. And I wonder if like the Undersea is gonna come back and like retaliate, or somebody else is gonna like step in and cause problems for sure, and she's gonna like come to the rescue basically.
Yeah, it's pretty much kind of summing up what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
So what's like your overall review?
I would give this book a 3 out of 5. I gave the first one a 3.5. I liked that one a little bit better than this one. I think I still have similar feelings to like what we talked about in our last episode, where there's no world building, not a lot of character development or relationship development. Like we see more of Jude and Cardan like developing their feelings for one another, but like how they go about it doesn't really feel like real to me. It still feels a bit sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Like these moments where they're like gonna hook up or they're gonna kiss, it's like it still kind of feels a little off. Like I think I prefer maybe books that have like more of like a slow burn romance, because like you get so much time like throughout a book where you're like, okay, like they take a step further and then they take a step further, and like you see like a full evolution of a relationship when that happens. And because this book is so like all of the fat has been trimmed from these books, like they're just like, this happens and this happens, this happens.
Exactly.
And that's just kind of bothering me, where I just not really I don't feel very invested in like a lot of the things in this book.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You did a really good job explaining that. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. My review would probably be, I'm like stuck between like a 3.5 and a 4. I gave the first one a 3 if I remember right. But yeah, it's just like I need the world building in order to like get into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just not there. I've seen like on TikTok and stuff, like people disagree with that.
Really?
But then those like people, I feel like they haven't read Sarah J. Maas.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've definitely read other Fae books where it's way like the world building is like outstanding.
Yeah.
And, like I don't have any issues like picturing it, but this one, like, it's so hard for me to like picture a lot of the things that they explain in here.
Right.
So yeah, I do agree with you though. Like I liked it better than the first one.
I like the first one better.
Oh, you did? Oh, I thought you said, okay, I got it mixed up.
You like this one better?
Yes. Yeah, I liked this one better than the first one. So yeah, have you read anything else recently?
I listened to I'd Like to Play Alone Please by Tom Segura. So he's a comedian. He has like a Netflix special. And I didn't know a lot about him before I listened to this book, but I had listened to a different podcast where one of the hosts was talking about like how funny this audiobook was. So I had put it on like my Libby like hold list. Finally got it. It was like 6 hours. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like down to laugh my way through this like 6-hour audiobook. The beginning was pretty funny. Like I like the parts where he was like making fun of his parents and his children. Like I was literally sitting in my cube at work like laughing, because he was like, one of the things he talks about is his dad has like 7 different types of like farts, and he can tell like based off the type of fart he has like what his like bowel movement is gonna be.
Oh my god.
And it like, just because he was like imitating his dad's voice and everything, so I was like laughing. But then like the remainder of the book just wasn't really doing it for me. Like he kept talking about run-ins he has with like celebrities at the airport or like on an airplane, and they weren't really like people that I cared to like hear about, and there wasn't anything like special. And then he had a ton of stories about like life as a comedian, which was just kind of more like informative than funny.
Yeah.
And so his delivery too was just like not really doing it for me either through like majority of the book. So I would give it a 2 out of 5, just because so little of it like really like seemed interesting to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I probably wouldn't recommend it to anybody other than like if you're a Tom Segura fan, like you watched his Netflix special and like wanted to learn more about him. This would probably be like a good opportunity to do that, but otherwise, no. Probably not. What about you? Have you read anything?
Other than what we've been talking about on the podcast, no. I just finished The Push, which we'll be talking about in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So I just finished that one. You'll hear our thoughts on that later on. One book that I am going to start reading is Satan's Affair. That's like the, like kind of, it's in the Cat and Mouse Duet, the Haunting Adeline series. It's kind of like a little small side novel about a different character in it. So
yeah, and you talked about those books last week.
Yes. Yeah. So that one just came in the mail, so I'm going to start that tonight probably. So yeah.
Cool. Happy early birthday, by the way. Your birthday
Thank
is
you.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh my god, is it is it? Oh my god, it is.
What day is it?
Yeah. Oops. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. We'll have to do something.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Little celebration. Cool. Well, that's a wrap on this episode. Thank you guys for joining us another week on the Literary Lounge. Again, I'm Emily.
I'm Paige.
And you can let us know on our YouTube channel what you thought. We love if you'd like, subscribe, leave your comments, let us know criticism or praise, whatever you're feeling about this episode. We also are on Instagram, the Literary Lounge MN. Same with TikTok. We have our drink, as Paige said, is posted on our Instagram account right now.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So next week's podcast, we're actually going to be talking about how to like start a book club and like the top books that we recommend for book clubs. So we're going to kind of take a little break from books and, well, we're not taking a break from books. We're taking a break from reviewing and reading a book, and we're just going to kind of give you our recommendations.
Yeah, it'll be spoiler free. Just kind of switch things up and just talk about books more in general, or like you said, books we recommend if we think would be good conversation starters. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.